Food becomes the highlight of the amusement park. Can sugar make us mental? And an interview with a vegetarian turned butcher. For July 13th, 2011, this is Food News Today. Good morning. Today's broadcast is pre-recorded. If you have any questions or comments about today's stories, please send me an email, phil@supermarketguru.com, and I promise to answer you within the next 24 hours. Food News Today is sponsored by ConAgra Foods, who shares with me the desire to provide the most current, interesting, and unbiased food news. In retail trends, we put on our shorts and t-shirts and get a roll of quarters to head to the amusement park. Well, maybe not quarters anymore, especially when it comes to their food offerings. Amusement park food can be a highlight of a family vacation, since so many destinations offer both traditional, think funnel cake, saltwater taffy, and hot dogs, and diverse options. Amusement parks for many bring back a nostalgic feeling of what their carefree childhood days were really like. But now parks are not only expanding the range of available food options, they're upping the quality and even trademarking specific items like never before, making for even more memorable and expensive amusement vacations. For example, let's take a visit to Del Grosso Amusement Park in Pennsylvania, who's famous for their potato salad. It's a popular choice for countless guests, and it's made fresh every day. Next, travel west to Disneyland for a pineapple whip float inside the Enchanted Tiki Room, a classic destination right here in Southern California. Another Disney favorite is a restaurant located inside of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, Blue Bayou, where you can watch boats drift through an artificial cove as you select from an impressive seasonal menu. Almost as well known are the hot dogs at Six Flags Great Adventure in the Garden State. Different from the usual because they're local, Nathan's Hot Dogs. And if you take a visit to Epcot's World Showcast, and you'll be treated to some of the best international cuisine in theme park history. For example, Le Chefs de France, a somewhat Americanized pseudo-French name for a restaurant, well, it's one of Epcot's fine dining hotspots with an authentic French menu and staff. Perhaps as the parks up their quality and offerings, we no longer have to worry about things like this.
Forget to refrigerate these?
Yeah.
And when they get in, yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Around what time?
In the morning. You smell weird?
Yeah.
I think that's normal, though.
Yeah.
Duffy! Fry these up.
The nation and food producers all seem to be focused on sugars to reduce the amount we consume as a key to reversing obesity. In Nutrition News, we take a look at a new study that offers yet another reason: sugar and mental illness. Eat too much sugary foods and you'll go nuts. That's the message according to a cross-cultural analysis published in the British Journal of Psychiatry, which found a strong correlation between refined sugar consumption and mental illness. Researchers found that a high intake of refined sugar and dairy predicted a higher incidence and worse outcomes of schizophrenia and depression. To the contrary, researchers also found that consumption of whole grains, beans, and starchy root vegetables were linked to a lower prevalence of mental illness. This research and other similar studies are shedding light on the fact that diet plays a big role in both our mental and physical health, the mind-body connection, if you will. Refined sugar consumption suppresses brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, an important growth hormone in the brain, involved in creating new connections between neurons crucial for memory function. Low BDNF levels are associated with depression and schizophrenia, and the consumption of refined sugar has the potential to exacerbate poor mental states by contributing to low BDNF levels. Refined sugar is well known to cause an increased level of inflammation throughout the body, and chronic inflammation is associated with heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, some cancers, and more ailments. There are many foods on our supermarket shelves with hidden sugars, so read labels and ingredient lists carefully and look out for those hidden sugars with names like high fructose corn syrup, glucose syrup, dextrose, honey, maple syrup, agave syrup, brown rice syrup, to name just a few. Some say the butcher's back, and with more consumers showing interest in where their food comes from, there's much more for the retailer and consumer to learn from these skilled meat artisans. We spoke with Brian Butler, an Austin, Texas master butcher with over 15 years of experience. Formerly trained at Texas State Technical College, he has worked as a butcher in a wide variety of settings. Brian has been Austin's neighborhood butcher for well over a decade and spent 6 years as the butcher at Wheatsville Co-op before joining Salt and Thyme in October of last year. He's also going to be competing this year in Cochan 555, a traveling culinary competition to promote the sustainable farming of heritage breed pigs. So the question begs to be asked, why did you become a butcher?
You know, I've always been intrigued with food and grew up in my parents' kitchens and family's kitchens. I went to a culinary school when I was getting out of high school, and I had a great time at the tour, but they had a meat program there as well, a fabrication, and it really intrigued me. It was a modern facility. They taught the most modern standards at the time, like HACCP and everything when that first rolled out. And it just seemed like a good way to keep paying bills. I never really intended to make a career out of it necessarily, but I've enjoyed it so far, and it's gotten to be a lot of fun to be able to say I'm a butcher because it really intrigues a lot of people.
Now, in talking about intriguing a lot of people, have you seen any difference in consumers' interest in working with a highly skilled butcher?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've worked a lot of different type of shops and retail markets, but most recently I found myself at a natural foods co-op, and people there were begging for information, you know, and just really want to ask you and really vet out the products that they're trying to purchase. And because of that, you know, I had to go and find products that were really impeccable as far as their branding and everything goes.
And how does local play into that?
Well, you know, if you don't support the local community, agricultural especially, eventually it's going to become more and more scarce. And you find that local farmers are easier to sway in directions that you want them to raise their products and the standards that you want to have, particularly in that last scenario I was in at the Natural Foods Co-op. We talked regularly with farmers. They asked what I wanted out of their products, and they accommodated. You know, it'd be hard to do that with a larger conglomerate, as it were.
And lastly, any advice for someone thinking about being a butcher?
Oh, do it. You know, it's fun. It is something that you can go through, you know, and learn from you know, somebody who's got more knowledge than you do, and apprentice with them and become a self-taught butcher. There's a lot to learn to butchery. You know, I've spent, you know, the last 15 years putting pieces together, you know, prior or after my schooling that were really fundamental in where I'm at now. I've been able to explore European techniques a lot and utilize those in the different marketplace. It doesn't work in every scenario by any means, but for what I do right now, it works perfectly, you know. I get a lot of people who come up to me and ask, you know, what does it take? You know, kind of the same kind of question. You know, you have to, the term we use in the industry is tonnage, and it's just cutting and practice and learning and, you know, and learning reference points and whatnot.
Thanks, Brian. For Food News Today, I'm Phil Lempert. Thanks for joining us. If you have a colleague in retailing, the media, or a blogger who would also like to receive our advance email, I hope you'll ask them to join us at foodnewstoday.com to sign up. Next week's stories will be in your Tuesday's email. Have a great week.